To start, can you just tell me a little bit about the Satanic Temple, how long you guys have been around and what your purpose is?
We've been around for 10 years, and as items of religious principle, we believe in liberal democratic ideals. And that's why you'll see us engaging in public forums where we feel like there needs to be a pluralistic representation if it looks like one voice seems to be co opting the authority of the government. And plus, our local congregations like to be involved in public forums just to show the community that we actually do have pro-social values and are willing to engage in some kind of productive and polite way. And after a while, we think when we do this, people will realize we just have a different perspective on this than they might, but that we're not moral monsters and that there's no need for all this uproar and controversy.
Why did you want to place the tree at the National Railroad Museum?
That was something our local congregation there wanted to do. And again, it's just something that lets people know that we're here, we do engage, and also on top of that, we do like people to know that recognize that we do live in a pluralistic society, and it's best when we exercise some latitude and viewpoint neutrality in forums and let it be known that we can peacefully coexist with different opinions.
I see you guys have a temple in Chippewa Falls, which is about 3 hours from here. What kind of presence do you have in the immediate Green Bay area?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. We've grown so fast since our inception, and honestly, I feel like some of the Christian nationalist overreach has really led to people embracing the ideals of Satanism, whereas both the polarized right and left have been abandoning liberal democratic ideals. We still champion them.
Did you expect the reaction that you've received so far with putting up the tree?
Actually, no. We've done things like this. We do things like this all the time. We engage with public forums all the time. Not long ago, my own band played in the Indiana State Capitol State House, and there were unbaptism rituals and things like that. And there really wasn't a public outcry. We actually thought we had turned a corner where we could kind of engage with these things. Some people would think it's a nuisance, but otherwise it wouldn't gain this kind of attention. But we were wrong. We never know. We never know when we engage whether it's some group or some opportunistic politician is going to try to turn it into some kind of moral cause.
I guess, do you see it from their perspective at all, with it being Christmas and the on the surface that you'd see that strong opposition there between the two sides?
No, because honestly, there's no placating this. If we refuse to engage with Christmas, they're angry about that. If we accept it and say we want to be a part of the overall feelings of camaraderie and goodwill during this season, whether or not we believe, they're angry about that too. So there's no real satisfying this kind of this overpowering sense that not only do we have to celebrate the holiday in exactly the way they say so, we also need to engage in their own religious beliefs and practices and pay deference to them.
Yeah, some say this is just a publicity stunt. What would you say to that?
I would say no more so than any of the other groups doing the exact same things. It's funny how we're always held to a different standard doing things that aren't unique. It's not like we created this forum. We're only engaging with it. And to see people melt down over the fact that we're engaging with a public accommodation somewhere is kind of insane.
Would you put up a tree again next year?
Yeah, certainly.
Why?
Why? Because there's no reason not to. I mean, it's for the same reasons we would do it this year. We want people to realize that the earth isn't going to open up beneath them. There aren't these spiritual repercussions, and that we're better off having an environment in which we can do those things, even if people are annoyed by them for whatever misinterpretations they have about it, than to have government entities picking and choosing which ones deserve placement and which ones do not.
What would you say to those who oppose the tree being there to maybe try to, get them to see your perspective?
I'd tell them to grow up. I'd tell them to grow up, and they don't have to look at the tree. They don't have to be offended by it. If they're so offended that it's there, then that's on them whether they want to go view the tree festival or not. But my understanding of the Railroad Museum, which I think is the topic of discussion here, is that that's a private entity that decided to uphold neutral free speech standards in their forum. So for any politician to suggest that there should be some regulation of that shows an egregious misunderstanding of their very oath of office and the very religious liberty and free expression that we're predicated on. To my mind, that really shows somebody who isn't qualified for the office they hold at all, if they're advancing the position that there should be some kind of regulation that would actually that would actually limit people's expression in this way or try to intrude on items of conscience.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome everybody. Appreciate everyone coming out for the press conference and the prayer vigil. My name is Joe Gigante. I'm the host of the Regular Joe Show and president of Wisconsin Strong Incorporated. As we explained in our release, we're here today for a very simple request. It really shouldn't be a heavy lift at this Christmas season as we're in Advent. The National Railroad Museum has been both a local and national treasure. Scores of children throughout the years and adults alike have come here to learn about trains, enjoy the sights, the sounds, the experience of the train, and that's been marred by what would be called an unforced error, deciding for reasons that don't even add up to have a satanic tree as part of a Christmas Festival of Trees display. What you're going to see today, hear from today, is people from all walks of life, elected officials, people that run organizations, and as you see here, dozens of people from all walks of life coming together, not for political reasons, but for a very simple reason, to remember what it is we're here to celebrate, which is Christmas, and ask a very simple request. Take down the tree. Apologize to all the people that have donated, both directly as benefactors and through their purchases of tickets through the years. They send scores of kids on school buses here each season. And the president of the Railroad Museum said, well, the satanic tree offers a educational experience. That's not the education people are expecting at a railroad museum. They're expecting train education. It really isn't difficult. The Satanic Temple says they're not a religion, so there's no concern that it's a discriminatory practice. Somehow you're choosing one faith over another. And my final piece on this is it's right in the name. It is Christmas. It is the celebration of the birth of the Christ child. To host something that is anathema to it, that is the polar opposite, can't be anything but an insult. And to pretend to have deaf ears to that is to insult all the people that have supported this organization and many that want to continue. All they're asking for is a simple thing. Stop insulting the Christmas holiday, the Christians, and all that celebrate it. Get rid of the tree. If you want to refund the money, I'm sure more than enough people would step forward to donate whatever the difference would be so that we can all move forward and once again enjoy the Railroad Museum. I want to introduce the first speaker is Ron Antono. He's a member of the Brown County Board of Supervisors, but more importantly, he is the past president of the board here at the National Railroad Museum, and he's going to give you his thoughts on this situation as well. Ron?
All right. Thank you, Joel. I've always said leadership matters. When I was the president of the board, this would never happen. We must have leadership on the board now. I don't know who they are, but they can't be from Brown County. They must be from out of the area, and I don't know why they don't support Christmas and why they're not Christians. This is a policy that would be easy to enforce and make. This is about Christmas. This is not about satanic worship. And I believe Bishop Ricken, if you've read his letter, he has it right. And I support him totally. I thank you all for coming. I hope we can get this organization back to the values that made Brown County great. And hopefully, if there are non-Brown County members on the board for the Railroad Museum, let's boot them off and get them out. And let's move forward. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to all of you. And Congressman Gallagher, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Merry Christmas to you as well.
It's a tough act to follow. I want to thank Joe for organizing this. And let me say at the outset something I said on Joe's show yesterday, which is that truly I love the National Railroad Museum. I've been here many times. I looked forward to taking my daughters here. It's a national treasure that we have right here in Northeast Wisconsin. The Dwight D. Eisenhower train, the event they do with the Polar Express, all this is just great, classic Northeast Wisconsin values in action, which makes it all the more tragic that something like this has happened. I think, as I also said to you, you expect something like this to happen in San Francisco or New York, but not here in Green Bay, not in Northeast Wisconsin. And so here you have people that are not just speaking out because they're Christians and because it's Christmas, but they're just common sense Wisconsinites that don't want to be assaulted by nonsense like this. And as a father of 2 young daughters, I'm not asking the Railroad Museum to teach my kids about Christmas per se, to do things that's my responsibility as their parents, but just don't force all this stuff onto kids. This creeping, we get accused as conservatives of waging a culture war. We're just resisting the slow, corruption of our culture. I would say, if you read the daily reading today, it's the third week of Advent, and it comes from the Gospel of Luke. It talks about that moment when the angel Gabriel comes to Mary and says, you're going to be the mother of the Son of God. And of course, Mary, like anyone would be, is surprised and terrified. And he says those famous words, be not afraid. I think part of the reason we see or we sort of feel something is amiss in America, we feel that American values and certainly Judeo-Christian values are under attack, is because it can be scary to speak out. It's not easy. It's hard. You can succumb to the fear of doing nothing. It's far more easy to say, what's the problem with having a satanic Christmas tree at Christmas, right? It's not harming anybody. And you can sort of lull yourself into, you can sort of justify it, right? I would argue that is ultimately how the devil operates best, right? It's apathy, it's complacency, it's weaponizing that fear. And it's incumbent on us to take those words, be not afraid, to heart, particularly when we're fighting for something as important as our kids, our country, and our faith. The final thing I'd say is that if you look on the Satanic Temple of Wisconsin's website, they have kind of a list of their core tenets. And I would argue that these are really in contradiction, because the entire website is really a pro-abortion advocacy website. If you really look at it, that seems to be the main thing that they advocate for, which is why it's great that we have so many pro-life warriors here today. But then the first tenet in their list of things they believe is that you have to treat all creatures with empathy and compassion. Well, apparently that empathy and compassion doesn't extend or apply to unborn babies, right? Who could be more helpless than those babies? And it's incumbent upon us to speak out for those lives that will be lost if we continue to do nothing or give in to fear. And, I sort of talked about the gospel. I think one of the cool things about being a Christian in general and a Catholic in particular, I'll just speak for the Catholics. I assume there's many of you here today. There's a few, yeah. We not only believe in God, we not only believe that Jesus is the Son of God, we not only believe in the Holy Spirit, we not only believe in angels, right? I mean, I believe in angels. I believe I have guardian angels, right? That might seem crazy to some people. We also believe that Satan is real, that the devil is real, and he's out there. And we need to be vigilant. So I just would close by maybe asking my patron saint or guardian angel, Saint Michael, to defend us against the wickedness and snares of the devil. And so I just would ask you, when you're home tonight or tomorrow with your family, maybe pray the prayer to Saint Michael and ask for the courage to lead without fear and the courage to push back against the devil's work And thank you, Joe, and thank you everyone for being here today. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, Congressman Gallagher. And by the way, congratulations. You mentioned your 2 daughters, but a 3rd baby on the way, so congratulations.
We're trying to beat the Shocks.
Well, that's called practicing what you preach, and so it's all right. I've got 5, so you got to catch up there too. So he mentioned the next speaker that you're hear from, a state senator here in Northeast Wisconsin, well known for his great work on a number of fronts. Certainly, the dignity of the human person has been at the forefront of all of his work in his professional life, both as an elected official but as an individual. Please welcome State Senator Andre Jacques.
Well, thank you, Joe. I want to echo some of what the previous speakers have already said. You know, it really is sad that here we are just before Christmas, weeks now that this tree has been up. How sad it is that we need to be here to demand that something so offensive be taken down. I mean, this is, well, the tree itself is obscene. I think that when you look at really the violation of community standards, obviously it would have been well within the rights of the Railroad Museum to reject this. And I think, you know, I would say, we moved to Greenbay when I was still pretty young, and I've been there. My family and I have actually been annual members before, and enjoyed the museum many, many times. But to subject children to an environment where, I mean, some of the images can't even really be shown in some media, where, I mean, Mike is certainly right about the Satanic Temple. Their website actually posits that abortion is an intrinsic, a core part of their religious ritual. I mean, what would we call child sacrifice in any context? And the fact that that's being pushed as somehow benign or benevolent by those that would try to reframe the debate. I mean, the fact is, Newsweek and other media have had the executive director of the Railroad Museum saying that this tree will be welcomed back in future years. That can't be allowed. And quite frankly, trying to kick the can down the road and say that this will be addressed at some other point or be quietly taken care of. I did reach out to the president of the board because I have such deep concern over the fact that we have something that, it was talked about, the greatest trick the devil ever did was having people, pretending that he doesn't exist. And what we have with the Satanic Temple is they are not a religion. They are an anti-religion. They are at war against religious belief, not just Christianity. And they are essentially doing the devil's work, however, through things like this. And I think it's great that we have so many people here today. Just want to thank you for being here. Merry Christmas and God bless.
Thank you, Andre. Well said. Next, I want to introduce State Representative John Mako, also a representative in this area, has spoken out, has made clear his feelings on this. And again, it really shouldn't be this difficult. It's a pretty straightforward deal. Let's celebrate Christmas for what it is. I give you John Mako.
Thanks, Joe. Well, Senator Jacques and Congressman Gallagher did a phenomenal job of summing it up, but I just find it fascinating. One of the most honorable things I get to do in my position is take part in some of the Eagle Scout ceremonies, and I've had at least a dozen or so Eagle Scout ceremonies here. And when you talk about what they're talking about of God and country and service and some of the other things, and then to see this kind of nonsense here, it's just actually, it's the opposite of what any of that stands for. So it's extremely frustrating. But all I can add to some of this stuff is I just want everybody to be encouraged. Because like Mike said, the Bible says, do not be afraid. 365 times in the Bible it says, do not be afraid. And that's one for every day. And if you read in Exodus, it says, look, this isn't your fight to fight, but stand ready. Now, what does stand ready mean? It didn't say, God didn't say, sit on the sofa, I'll go ahead and take care of this. He said, no, stand ready. So we have to get ready. So seeing everybody here today tells me that we're ready. We're talking to our neighbors. We're talking to our friends. We're not going to this event and paying dues while this shenanigans is going on. So we're being ready. We're doing that. But I'm just going to ask you all to actually pray. think about this. Add this to your daily prayer in the morning when you're devotional, or at night before you go to bed. When you're in church, make sure that that's part of your devotion, that God comes in and sees this and puts a stop to it, that he opens the eyes of some of these people. I mean, keep in mind, Paul was on the road to Damascus. What was Paul's first job? To kill Christians. You know, he was on the road to go and find more Christians. He was at the first stoning of Stephen when they stoned him to death. And yet God was able to turn him around. And so he can do all of those things. And I would just say one last thing. Don't become weary from doing good. We're winning. The devil would like us to think we're not, but keep in mind, we used to have 3 strip joints in Brown County. We have 1 now, you know, and so we're making progress. So let's just keep doing that, and I just thank guys like Joe to shining a light on it. We in the legislature, as well as Senator Jacques, did send resolutions to them. We're looking at their funding issues and seeing if there's anything we can do there from a leverage standpoint, because this is inconsistent with what we're trying to do. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, John. Before I bring up the last speaker, I want to introduce, there's a couple, and I didn't see his, Pat Buckley, he's not here, okay. I just didn't want to miss anybody, but present here is John Cavill, who's the founder of Esther Veer, which is one of the organizations helping to put the coalition together, and I think he's over there, but Jim Ball, oh, he's over on the sidewalk. That's where you will always find Jim Ball, on the sidewalk, prayerfully protesting against the affront to the sanctity of human life, but Jim Ball is the executive director of Verum Vitae, the other organization that helped to put this whole coalition and get things going here today, and want to thank both of them for their tireless work that they've done, often behind the scenes, much like today. Both had the opportunity to speak and said, no, you guys do what you do. We're here to support it and make it happen. And with that, I want to give you one other member of the Brown County Board of Supervisors, Pat Evans, who I don't want, you're going to say about your hat, right? I'm not supposed to mention in the intro, which he points out also here today as a Knight of Columbus. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. And thanks to my fellow Knights of Columbus members for who are here as well. So sometimes I get accused of being the Mr. Real, and nobody likes Mr. Real. But the fact of the matter is, there's no such thing as a holiday tree. All right? There's only a Christmas tree. What has happened over the years is we try to bastardize Christmas by making this holiday tree stuff. Does anybody put up a holiday tree for Independence Day or Martin Luther King Jr. Day or Labor Day? No. It's only put up at Christmas time, because a Christmas tree is that. It is about Christ. It's a symbol, one of the symbols we have for Christmas. But you see, people are out there trying to peck away at everything. So there is no holiday tree. There's only a Christmas tree. So this tree here, done, all of this stuff. It's terrible. It's baloney. And what that comes down to then is that we have to talk about the devil and Lucifer. And he's the great tricker. And that's what he's doing. He's tricking people into saying, well, how can we do? Oh, we'll put up a holiday tree. No one puts up holiday trees. But what we can do, they can mask it as saying, well, we can get rid of the symbol of Christ, one of the symbols of Christmas, of the nativity, of our coming together of our Lord and Savior. And that's what's trying to be done here now. But, as a friend of mine told me this morning, he said, you know what happens? When evil is brought upon good people, they stand up. And you're seeing that here today, right? Evil is being brought on to many people, but good people will stand up and stand against this type of evil. So I appreciate everybody coming out here today. Thank you so much. Continue to do the work that you're doing. Keep Christ in Christmas. Amen.
Thank you, Pat. Now, Kathy Kane here has a sheet that everyone, she has copies, you can get them. It's a list of all the sponsors. If you want to contact them to encourage them, to ask them to take the tree down. At the bottom of the list is a piece of good news, which is that Festival Foods has withdrawn their sponsorship over this. So, but there's a whole list. You can get them from Kathy right here in the white hat. And as I mentioned earlier, at regjoeshow.com, it's the first post on the website. You can download the letter, print the letter, whatever you guys want to call it, sign it, mail it into the Railroad Museum. It's very respectfully written, just saying, look, please take the tree down, say you're sorry, and then we can all move forward. That concludes all of our speakers.